Hey everybody, this is Jeremy Siskind. I am the author of the book Playing Solo Jazz Piano, which of course I encourage you to go out and buy. Today's subject isn't about playing solo jazz piano, it's about learning and practicing how to develop a motif in your solo. Basically, how to make one phrase relate to the next phrase. And this is such a source of fascination for me and for so many others. I saw a masterclass once with the great Mogu Miller, and he was talking about his great obsession wasn't about all the incredible chords that he was using and these lightning fast lines and the beautiful tone. He said that his fascination was about how one musical phrase can relate to another. And it makes sense because when we improvise, we want people to feel like we're telling them a story, like there's a narrative. Not that we're just kind of playing random things that we can glean from scales and arpeggios and transcriptions and licks and all of our sources, but we want to actually communicate with other musicians as artists. That's, I think, the goal. So I'm going to tell you how I like to practice it, and what you'll see over here is I broke down. Oh, this isn't going well already. I broke down some of the ways in which phrases can relate. And what I like to do is isolate a very specific technique and then practice it. And one of my philosophies is that you should not sound good while practicing. Whenever you're practicing, you should be overdoing something. Just like maybe you shouldn't look good when you're working out. If you look cool when you're working out, you're probably not doing a good workout, right? You should be just like drenched in sweat, barely hanging on. It's the same when you're practicing. If you're practicing and you're sounding good, then you're probably not learning much. You're probably just coasting. You're reinforcing your old habits. So what we want to do is overdo some of these techniques. And I'm going to be using the tune Recordame, which I like because it has some parts where the chords stay the same and then some parts where the chords are changing more quickly. So I can kind of demonstrate both. So if you haven't heard that tune, it sounds like this. So what you see over here, again, this is a breakdown of some of my favorite ways in which two phrases can relate. The first one is literal repetition, okay? So if you play a phrase, you can play it again. So if I'm playing... Now, as the chord changes, I can't keep doing that because it doesn't match. And we'll talk about some ways that we can make those two things match. But I just wanted to throw out there before we get to anything fancy, of course, you can just literally repeat whatever it is that you play. Now, this first one is so hugely important. You can play something with the same rhythm, but different notes. And this is an exercise that I do all the time, and I always have my students do. When they find a phrase that they like, we play that phrase, the same rhythm, different notes. So if I'm doing, the rhythm is da, 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 da. So... I'm creating different shapes. So my original phrase was, it kind of went like this, up and then down. But as I'm creating different phrases with the same rhythm, they could go down and then up, right? It could be, or it could all just go up, or it could really leap around. It could make weird angles. And that way you can use that same rhythm, but get really interesting notes. Now, oftentimes people do this and they might just change one note to kind of have a different ending. So it could be... And then... So now we're kind of maybe going down once, going up once. some of my students know I refer to this kind of thinking as the Wynton Kelly principle, from this very famous Freddie Freeloader solo where Wynton Kelly goes, he goes up once, down once, same note, going up to B flat, down to B flat. So you can play around with the shape, or it could be, you know, you have the same two first notes. To doing this exercise, I'm only using that rhythm. I'm not saying, well, I'm going to use things kind of like that rhythm, and then I'm going to kind of go off and do something else. No, you're not really going to learn anything that way. You have to commit and get past the point of boredom to the point where you just, you know, are so bored with this rhythm. You know, I often teach Louis Armstrong's great solo on, what is it called? I'll think of the name, Potato Head Blues. So happy, so joyful. Any one of those rhythms you could use. I kind of enjoy this one because there it's all about the rhythm, right? He's playing basically a flat melody, but he's repeating this note in an interesting. So could I apply that to recordame? It's maybe a little awkward because it's got those triplets. Steal rhythms from your favorite artists. You know, when you have a transcription and you find a rhythm that you like, definitely use it and practice that exercise. The second one is same notes, different rhythm. And you'll be surprised when you start looking for it how frequently this happens. So I'm going to take these 4 notes, and if I were actually going to repeat them, I might do that. Same 4 notes, but this time it was ba ba doo da, right? Or ba. I think I messed up the form. Gives this question and answer feeling, even though they're the same notes. And one very specific version of this, and I've written it over here. I'm doing badly. Nope, it's this way. Nope, it's this way. There we go. Is called displacement. And displacement means that you're playing the exact same rhythm, but you're starting on a different beat. So if I'm doing da 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 4, so that started right on beat 1. I did da 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 1 2 3 4 1 2. So there I started it on beat 2. This is used so often. Drummers use this all the time, but all kinds of improvisers use this. Let's see if I can start it on beat 3. So it'll be 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2. Pretty cool. Or we could maybe even move it onto the ands, which makes it even more different and interesting. So 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1. I think I did that right. So displacement is a great thing to practice. Can you play the same lick on all 4 beats plus the ands? Now, number 4, I guess, is you can add to the end or the beginning of your lick. So I'm going to do the same exact lick, and I'm going to add to the end. So very nice. Let's see if I can add to the beginning. Pretty cool. I'll do one more example of adding to the end, because I think that's a little bit more common. Because it's like you've played the same thing and then you comment on it a little bit. So not that complicated. Now, what's fun is that you can combine some of these things. In fact, you can kind of combine all of them. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to displace this by a beat. So I'm going to start it on beat 2, and then I'm going to add a little bit to the end. So here we go. It starts on 1 first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So now I displaced it to beat 2, plus I added a little bit to the end. I could also try same rhythm, different notes, but then add to the end. So check this out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so a lot of times when you actually hear artists doing it, it's not just a single device. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's nice and simple, but a lot of times they're maybe doing same rhythm, different notes, plus adding to the end or adding to the beginning. So that's definitely worth practicing, I think. Okay, then we get to ways in which you can change the notes. So for me, there's kind of 3 of these. Maybe, I'm sure somebody out there has more, but I'm just a simple fella. So first one is sequencing, okay? And so sequencing means that you're moving it to a different point in the scale or mode. You're doing the same interval pattern, but maybe instead of starting on here, it would be the 4th note of A Dorian. Maybe I want to start on the 5th note of A Dorian, in which case it would be still a 2nd, plus a 5th, plus a 2nd down, right? So that pattern is not going to change. So I'm going to go up by a step, I'm going to go, or I could start here. Okay, so here's how that would actually sound like. I might play. Okay, and of course, this could certainly be combined with the other things. I could do that and displace it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Check it out. Now I'm going to sequence it. Do that same displacement to beat 2, and then add to the end. So it's going to be 3 devices in 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay. So again, I sequenced it. I brought the interval. I brought it up in the scale, but it's played the same intervals. I started on beat 2 instead of beat 1, and then I added to the end. So now we're getting into things that are significantly different than that original phrase, and yet you can still really hear the relationship. And this is what jazz musicians consciously or subconsciously do all the time. They're constantly transforming their material in meaningful ways. But there's always a relationship, even if it's very obscure, between what they played just now and the next thing. So after sequencing, we can also do transposition. And the difference is that in transposition, we're moving each of the intervals literally. So if it's a major second, we're gonna go up by a major second. If it's a perfect 5th, we're gonna go up by a perfect 5th. Whereas the other one, we're just gonna go up in the mode. So this one, if I transpose it up, would actually be, so it would go outside of the mode. So what I could do is that would fit beautifully when we get to the C minor, when we get to measure 5. So let's see, I'm gonna transpose it up by a half step. So this would be, nice. Or, since the chords are actually moving by minor thirds from A minor to C minor, I could transpose the lick up by a minor third. So I'd start on the same chord tone, the 4th. So that would sound like this. Okay, so you can use transposition in which you would literally change the, maintain the exact interval structure, but move it by a certain amount. Whereas sequencing, the intervals are going to change depending where you are in the mode. The next option in terms of kind of adjusting the notes is adjusting the key signature, or I guess another way to say that would be adjusting the mode. And in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the same lick when I get to C minor, but now in C minor, we have 2 flats. And so this E flat, this E and this B are going to have to go to E flat and B flat. So it's going to be the same notes, but the interval structure is going to change a little bit to adjust for the new mode. So some of the notes remain unchanged, but those ones that are changing with the mode do change. So those are 3 different options of how we could take that simple lick and make it different, move it up or down for a different chord, or to kind of change the character of it a little bit. One of my other favorite tricks, and I love doing this while improvising, is starting with the ending note or the ending notes from the previous phrase. Okay, and so this might be maybe the simplest one. So, and this is a great exercise for you to try at home. You know, if I'm improvising, well, let's do this lick that we've been using. This one starts on a D and ends on an A. So now I'm going to come up with the next lick is going to start on the A. Okay, and now I've ended on an E, and so I'm going to start the next lick on this E. And now I've ended on this C, so I'm going to start the next phrase on this C. Try to follow along. I ended on the D. Ended here. So now I'm kind of forming this, I think of it as like a links in a chain. Wherever I end, I'm starting my next phrase. Or it doesn't have to be just a single note that you ended on. You could repeat the last 2, 3, 4 notes of that last phrase. So it's kind of like you're reviewing what you just said before, and then you're expounding on it, which is something that we do a lot when we're speaking, right? So I could go... So I ended with, so I'm going to start the next one with, okay, I ended with, so do you see what I'm doing? I'm imagining that I'm in a car and I'm going a little bit forward and then I'm going a little bit back and a little bit forward. What do they say? 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or something like that. So I'm kind of retreading on the last few notes that I just played. And that can be a really nice way. It's a little bit less exacting than some of these other ways. But it does form this sense of continuity in your solo. And I actually love it if you're somebody who feels like maybe you're not always great at listening to yourself or paying attention to what you're playing. This is a great exercise to increase your mindfulness of what you're playing and to really start listening to yourself. The last thing that I want to go over here is the fact that you don't always have to relate to your phrase to the thing that you just played. You can make more complex phrasing patterns. So here's, probably the simplest of the more complex would be A, B, A, B. So check this out. I'm going to go... So there, I played a question phrase, an answer phrase, and then I did a sequence, or I guess I transposed technically, the question phrase, and I went, and then I did something, I actually just changed the mode of the answer phrase, I think. So here, it's not necessarily that everything's exactly in order. Now we're drawing our inspiration, our storytelling from something that happened a little bit further in the past. And when you listen to great musicians, and Miles Davis is the first one that comes to mind for me, you hear them absolutely doing this. And Miles is brilliant at having this long musical memory where he's able to recall something that happened last chorus or 2 choruses ago. And he keeps that same motif going in his playing. So I hope that you found this useful. And that gives you a lot of practice ideas. because I think that this is one of the biggest difference between people who know their chords and scales and can, play fast and are dexterous on their instrument versus people who are really making art and really making things that people want to hear. And I know that we all want to be those players. As always, I'd encourage you to like and subscribe. I am trying to grow this channel. I'm trying to post 1 or 2 videos a week. And of course, I would love it if you buy my book, especially if you buy it from my website, jeremysiskind.com/shop, because I do get to keep more of that money than if you buy it from Amazon. So have a fantastic weekend, wherever you are, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.